intentionally using synthetic molecules, which by design are cancer, AIDS, all of the bogeymen we could dream up.
Yeah, it's for the purpose of sterilization and population control. There's too many people on the planet we need to get rid of. In the words of Bill Gates, at least 3 billion people need to die. So we'll just start off in Africa. We'll start doing our research there, and we'll eliminate most of the Africans because they're deplorable. They're worthless. They're not part of this world economy. So they have their rights taken away, and they're suppressed, and they're experimented.
All right. Today we're going to be talking about a certain topic. So the video that you just saw is it's a video that's actually circulating that's talking about Bill Gates. And one of the reasons I'm talking about this today is because I'm actually a bit surprised, because I feel as though not many people are talking about this. Although naturally, of course, over time, it seems more and more people are joining the discussion. If you go online, you'll see that there are certain people who seem to be cautious of some of the things Bill Gates is saying. So if you don't know Bill Gates, which I think is highly unlikely, Bill Gates is a multimillionaire, probably likely a billionaire. He's well known, of course, for Microsoft, which is mainly computer-based operating system. Although naturally, as you diversify your company, he diversified it into, I think he once put it in Nokia. There was that partnership because Nokia wasn't doing so well. And I think it was just a way of trying to have a partnership that will probably or most likely try to up your sales. I don't think it worked out though. So Bill Gates has been, for years actually, he has been talking a lot about health and population. Now, naturally, it's known that when famous people or celebrities or whoever just becomes well known, they like to diversify their portfolio. You'll see an actor or actress using their platform and the fact that they are well known to talk about other issues. And it makes sense because naturally, being famous, being well known, if you talk about a certain issue, it's easier for you to get the word done, or rather the word spread, because you already have an established platform. If someone who's unknown tries to talk about an issue, it might be true. The things you're talking about might be understandable, they might be real, but just to push that agenda is a bit hard because no one really knows you. And if no one knows you, your credibility is yet to be tested. Bill Gates has over the years talked about health, especially looking at countries that are considered third world nations. So this countries in Africa, and these are Southeast Asian countries. In all of this, he has really emphasized and talked about population. So there are many, I would say countless interviews and just films in which he talks a lot about the dangers of overpopulation. To a degree, this makes sense because if we are going to grow at a rate at which the population cannot keep up with what is being produced, it's no-brainer. There's need for intervention. There's need to put in measures that are most likely going to help the situation. So where exactly is the problem? Well, the problem or the tricky thing or the thing that really raises an eyebrow is when he talks about vaccination for population control. Allow me, let that set in. Population, that is vaccinating people, especially in third world countries, so that we can control the population of the world, so that the production of resources can still upkeep with the population. The thing that's tricky about this is many times when he talks about this in interviews, people don't really ask him, wait, hold up, what exactly do you mean? He just goes on and on. Unfortunately, I cannot find a certain video I'm looking for. If you don't mind, I'm going to be eating throughout this. ASMR. Doritos. He talks about this as though it's the solution. Even his wife Melinda talks about population control. Rather, let me not say population control, but she talks more about contraception and giving women all these options in third world countries. The thing that's tricky is he doesn't talk about the how. So how do you vaccinate someone such that you are able to upkeep or rather maintain or control the population? He was being interviewed by Trevor Noah. I think it was in November or October 2020. This was in The Daily Show. And Trevor was talking to him about all these conspiracy theories, the things that people are talking about. Bill Gates, people have all these theories about vaccination, blah, blah, blah. What have you got to say about that? The tricky thing or the interesting thing is he did not answer that question. I mean, yes, he did say, when you want to do something, there will always be controversies, blah, blah, blah. But he did not answer it. I would think it's something that's plain and simple. Hey, you keep talking about this thing and people seem to be cautious or scared. And what do you have to say about that? It's easy to say, well, yes, naturally people are always scared of change. That's a basic. And then he goes on this talk that has nothing to do with the initial question. And I'm there like, this is a platform for you to be able to fully express how you want to control the population or how you want to save the world from itself because of the growing population. But he didn't. He just talked about something that didn't seem to answer the question. And I'm there like, well, this is a no-brainer. Why not just answer the question so that your critics and people who may be seen as conspiracy theorists can be answered, so that at the end of the interview I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I was scared for nothing. But he didn't. Melinda on the other hand, his wife, she talks about contraceptions. So her argument, and I'm guessing naturally the argument of her husband, is that in first world countries or rich countries or wealthy countries, contraceptions are more accessible. So people have options. However, in third world countries, and one of the problems I have is they say in Africa. Once you say Africa, you generalize, because many Western people think Africa is the same. Many Western people do not understand that our culture and traditions are diverse within Africa. Many countries outside Africa think that the African situation ranges throughout. So once you hear Africa, you think, Botswana, blah, blah, blah. I'm from Botswana, and many of the things that they talk about are not applicable in this country. So Melinda talks about how in these third world countries, many women would like to have the option to control whether they would like to get pregnant or not. Problem being, and look, I will not shy away from this. Facts are facts. In many third world countries, and especially in poor families, you'll find that for whatever reason, and unfortunately, they will have many children and they will not be able to take care of their children. So I think there is an argument from that point of view. However, when you talk about population and vaccinating women so that they can have so that they can control their population. It raises an eyebrow because Melinda, in one interview, I think it was actually in a TED Talk, she said women actually prefer to be vaccinated, I think like 4 times a year, so that they can control, whether they'd like to get pregnant or not. And I'm like, I'm in Africa. I don't claim to be an expert, but I have never heard of a woman preferring to be vaccinated. To be honest, I didn't even know that was one of the options that exist. Her argument is, well, the problem is women don't want to get pregnant, but the husband or their partners want them to have children, and so they end up having children that they didn't really want. However, if they can, in some instances, secretly just get vaccinated, they don't get pregnant, and therefore they're able to better take care of their families because they don't have 20 children. Of course, I'm exaggerating the figures of 20 children, but it's just for the purposes of this argument or opinion. And I'm there like, I actually don't adhere. I actually don't believe a lot of what is said. Again, I don't claim to be an expert. This is just my point of view. I don't think that there are women there who are like, I need to get vaccinated so that I can be in a situation where I can control whether I want to get pregnant or not. Because first off, I'm like, there are many tricky things. You have the IUD, you can snip the uterus, or if you're a man, you can snip down the tubes so that the semen doesn't flow. No one really wants to do that. Of course, in extreme situations, some people do that so that the 100% sure they cannot have children. But generally in third world countries, first I'm like, have people heard of a condom? Vaccination versus condom. Women prefer to be vaccinated rather than the use of a condom. And I'm like, really? You prefer that I inject you every 4 months? Again, that's just my point of view. Maybe it's true. What do I know? And of course, if that is true, it makes sense, again, because of her argument where she says, well, some women want to do this secretly because husbands want to have many children or their partners. This is where it becomes tricky. In one interview, she said this is necessary. She was talking about the need to give contraceptions because women are having around 8 children. In a certain village, I think they tried having children 8 times. 4 of them died during birth control, either the process of giving birth or whilst she was still pregnant, making it a miscarriage. And so to mitigate all this, one of their solutions is to give them birth control. My argument is birth control is not going to solve third world country problems. Even if miraculously, say we were to press a button right now. Again, don't get me wrong. I am not saying people do not have the right to choose whether or not they want to have a child. It's a given right. No one puts a gun on your head and say you will have a child. So I'm not against that. What I am saying is, are you saying that if people have less children, then this will solve the third world country problem? And my argument is nope. And I reason is, I dare say it may not even put a dent. When you have an issue, there's a way of thinking. I don't want to call it a school of thinking, But there's a certain way of thinking that challenges how people have traditionally thought of finding solutions or thought about a certain situation. And it's about diving down to the root problem. Population is not going to fix anything. The problem lies in jobs. Now, this may be tricky. If people do not have jobs and they are unable to make an income, whether they have one child or 20 children, they will not be able to efficiently take care of their children. Yes, it's no-brainer. Even if you're in a dire situation, it is at least better to take care of that one child rather than taking care of 20 other mouths to feed. It's a no-brainer. Yes, that's true. Even so, if you do not tackle the problem of unemployment and people being empowered so that they are in a better financial position, things will not change. When or if you are poor, all you can give to your offspring is poverty. It's a generational thing. So think of, say, Bill and Melinda have a child. I do not know if they have children, or likely they do. Say they have children. Say the Rockefeller and the empire. Say Donald Trump, not as the president, but as this business person. These are people who have money. And therefore, when they have money, they are able to give it to their heir. They are able to take those resources, that fortune, and give it to their offspring. And therefore, you see that their offspring are already in a privileged point, are already privileged, and their life is already set, so to speak. Of course, they're still individuals. They can choose to endeavor in their parents' fortunes and make more or upkeep. If it's an estate or it's a business, they're still individuals. But long story short, they are not birthed into poverty. Look at the royal family. What did the princess do? Nothing. They were birthed in royalty, and therefore it goes from generation to generation. If you do not solve the core thing, the core issue with African countries and Southeast Asian countries, your Indonesia, Cambodia, and all these other countries, even if you deal with population, it does not solve the core. If people, however, have jobs and parents are able to make a living, provide for their families, and because they're able to provide, whether it's shelter, it's food, it's taking children to a good school, or giving them a good education, that then goes down to the offspring, and they're more able to give to the offspring a better life. So this argument just doesn't make sense for me. And again, I cannot find, I think there was a YouTube video that was, there was a YouTube video that I saw on YouTube, and I think it was a compilation of the things Bill Gates was saying. And he was just on this thing about population vaccination. And the weird thing is, this was going back even before the year 2000. I think in the 1996 or something. Like, it's not something that's new. Another thing that's making people become a bit is the fact that Bill Gates, it seems, has a registered company, a vaccination company. So he actually has a company that deals with vaccination. Now, I'm just stating my points of view. I am in no way saying Bill Gates is evil and he is bad and he's trying to change your DNA. But I am saying that it seems as though something just isn't adding up. Just take a look at these videos.
This year, if you think about it, over 1 billion couples will have sex with one another. Couples like this one, and this one, and this one. Some people worry that the real goal of family planning is to control populations. But these are all side issues that have attached themselves to this core idea that men and women should be able to decide when they want to have a child. And as a result, birth control has almost completely and totally disappeared from the global health agenda. And the victims of this paralysis are the people of sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia. Here in Germany, the proportion of people that use contraception is about 66%. That's about what you'd expect. In El Salvador, very similar, 66%. Thailand, 64%. But let's compare that to other places like Uttar Pradesh, one of the largest states in India. In fact, if Uttar Pradesh was its own country, it would be the 5th largest country in the world. Their contraception rate, 29%. Nigeria, the most populous country in Africa, 10%. Chad, 2%. So let's just take one country in Africa, Senegal. Their rate is about 12%. But why is it so low? Well, one reason is that the most popular contraceptives are rarely available. Women in Africa will tell you over and over again that what they prefer today is an injectable. They get it in their arm, and they go about 4 times a year. They have to get it every 3 months to get their injection. The reason women like it so much in Africa is they can hide it from their husbands, who sometimes want a lot of children. The problem is, every other time a woman goes into a clinic in Senegal, that injection is stocked out. It's stocked out 150 days out of the year. So can you imagine the situation? She walks all this way to go get her injection. She leaves her field, sometimes leaves her children, and it's not there. And she doesn't know when it's going to be available again. This is the same story across.
We were at one of these meetings yesterday, and I remember that a lady told you that she had had 8 children, and 4 of them had died in childbirth, or shortly thereafter. But if all of them had survived, she'd have 8 children. And what the developing world does not need is more children.
And I think that was the biggest aha to Bill and me when we got into this work, is we asked ourselves, of course, the same hard-nosed question you'd ask, which is, if you get into this work and you start to save these children, will women just keep overpopulating the world? And thank goodness the converse is absolutely true. So they don't do that, because women say to themselves they want 2 children to survive into adulthood. If she knows that 2 will survive into adulthood, she will naturally bring down her population. And so as soon as she starts to see that getting them vaccinated or keeping them alive during the birth, she won't have as many children. That's what we just heard from this group as well, that the older women had had more children, hoping more would survive, but the younger women are starting to plan for smaller families because they know they'll live.
They all said they wanted 3.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is fantastic.
Not 8.
That's what you want. Yeah.
And so if you understand that there's a high likelihood that your child is going to survive, you believe they'll have fewer.
Absolutely, and we're seeing that play out in all the population numbers across the globe. In fact, the population rates are coming down faster than had been predicted 10 years ago.
So he talks about this organization that's called Global Alliance for Vaccines. It's Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization. So I think it's an organization that deals with buying vaccines on behalf of poor countries so that people are better able to get injected. I think for me, the thing that makes it a bit tricky is that in one interview, Melinda, when she was in Africa, says, this is to assist with population control. And then 2 years later in a TED Talk, she says, this is simply to give people the option. It has nothing to do with birth control, but just to give people the option to have children or not. And so it seems as though it's hard to know what this is really about, and the way in which they are so dedicated or passionate about pushing this agenda. You would think that the focus would be, how can we ensure that with technology we're able to produce food that is enough for the whole population? I mean, people are talking about, is it hydro agriculture? You know, instead of having a large field and using so much water, people are now using like high tunnels, you know, those high tunnels, and they're using water irrigation. So you have little amount of water being used to produce as much fruit and vegetables as possible. So although the argument, or Bell's argument, is that still that won't do, that's not enough, he argues that still the cost of doing that is just too much. On my end, I would think it's a better thing to push, the same way that people have been pushing for solar energy. People don't say, well, solar energy is a bit too expensive, let's discard it. Even if it is currently expensive, you push for technology that will standardize it such that it becomes affordable. There are many things that we have right now which were luxuries years back. Flat screen TVs, at what point in life those were luxury? Like having a flat screen TV was a luxury. Now it's a standard thing. When someone has a TV, it's a flat screen. It's standard. So the more technology advances and the more people invest in that technology, that thing which is a luxury ends up becoming standard. I think that's where they should go. I think that's a better solution. But of course, a greater solution would be people need to have jobs. Anyway, that's me, Suzmushi, and that's just my little talk on the matter. I know there's a lot to talk about, but just for now, I think I'll just leave it at that. I'd like to know, what are your views on this matter? What do you guys think? Do you guys think there's an agenda? Do you guys think these are just conspiracy theories and don't look into them? What exactly do you think? All right, so there's one more thing that I actually forgot to talk about as an aside. So there's this photo that's been circulating on, I'd say, social media. It shows signs of a pill or medicine that is apparently not supposed to be taken in North America and generally Western countries, but is to be used only in African countries. Now, it doesn't say Africa, but all the countries that it can be used in is only in Africa. So people have been very cautious and feeling a certain way about this, because it makes them wonder, why in the world is this pill strictly not to be used in other countries and only to be used in Africa? So of course, when you hear this thing and then you tie it with the conspiracies about the whole population control, it's easy for people to really feel as though there's something to it. Upon my research, and disclaimer, it was very little research, there seems to be an argument that this pill has nothing to do with all that population, blah blah blah. The reason why it's strictly to be used in Africa, I think it has to do with all these distribution rights and stuff. So you will know that certain companies might have rights to deliver a product in a certain region, and then it seems the company says, or a spokesperson or investigations say, the same drug is being used also in Western countries, only that it's under a separate name. So the reason that one can only be used in Africa is just because of distribution rights and stuff. I'll just give an example, not that it's a real life example. Imagine Coca-Cola using the name Coca-Cola only in Africa, but in the US, for whatever reason, same product, but it can only go under the name Coke. I'm just giving an example. So it seems that's all there is. That's the argument, that is to say, people shouldn't worry. Again, this is just an aside, but I thought it's something that's worth adding to the video. Anyway, thanks again, and bye. Anyway, guys, thanks a lot for watching, and Peace.